Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast. And welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by the demonic nun himself, my good friend, Eric Niss.
Oh, man. Did you think that was super cheesy that they kind of slung that in there? That they were like, who's that? You're like, oh, I don't know. Some other nun, sister, whatever her face. Sister of Satan.
Wait, what are you talking about?
You didn't see that in the movie where they just like shoehorned in the fucking demonic nun? It was like in a picture?
No, I didn't.
Like, oh, yeah, dude. Oh, man. That was like, maybe because I was like looking for shit that was connected to the other movies.
They put a lot of shit in this film that is connected.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, that's totally a thing that happened in the movie. I'm surprised you didn't see it.
Well, if you couldn't tell about what we're talking about already, we're going to be talking about Annabelle Creation, the fourth film in the now officially titled Conjuring universe. Film stars Talitha Bateman as Janice and Lulu Wilson as Linda, and is directed by Lights Out director David F. Sandberg, who we actually spoke with, so we'll have an interview with him later. The IMDb synopsis for the film is 12 years after the tragic death of their little girl, a doll maker and his wife welcome a nun and several girls from a shattered orphanage into their home, soon becoming the target of the doll maker's possessed creation, Annabelle.
This is our new orphanage. It's as big as a castle.
Feel free to use the house as you see fit. Mrs. Mullins and I stay down here. Your rooms are upstairs. Locked, and it stays that way.
Hello? You're the Mullins daughter, aren't you?
Can you help me?
What do you need?
Janice says she's seen your daughter.
My daughter has been dead for a very long time.
She was taken from us at an early age. We prayed to see our beloved girl again. The contact started small, but then it wanted permission to move into a doll so that it could be with us forever. We said yes.
sister is coming after me.
Who?
The evil presence. It's because I'm the weakest.
It's the doll. The devil. Annabelle?
This is a prequel to a prequel.
Yeah, it's a prequel to a prequel.
It's a prequel to a prequel named Annabelle that took place before the first Conjuring film. You've seen the first Annabelle. You saw the second one over the weekend. Mm-hmm. How does this compare to the first one, and what are your thoughts on this film?
I liked this movie a lot better than I liked the first Annabelle movie, because the first Annabelle movie is just pretty garbage. It's not great.
No, it's really not. It's pretty, I don't know. It was even before the second Conjuring. Like, they hadn't really sorted out a lot to be nice.
You know, the concept is pretty simple. You know, you have this like super duper creepy doll that like you kind of make a semi big deal about in the Conjuring movie.
Right.
And then everybody's like, dude, that doll is super fucked up. Like, what the fuck is the deal with that? So you make a movie about it. It seems straightforward, but like, I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the first Annabelle movie, so I can't really put my finger on exactly what didn't work about it or what I didn't like about it, but suffice it to say, it didn't work and I didn't like it. So I was pretty skeptical when they were going to make a prequel to that prequel, which I have all sorts of just like come the fuck on Hollywood issues with. But like, that stuff aside, this movie was successful in a lot of ways that the first movie wasn't.
It's a prequel.
Yeah, not to say that there's a bunch of kind of weird issues that I have with this movie. It does a lot wrong, but it also does a lot right.
I like this film a lot. Like you said, there are kind of some issues, and I'm not sure. I don't think that the issues I have with this film are things that are like put it kind of in a category of like you shouldn't watch this film. I think it's small things for me. I think ultimately though this film does a better job because these Conjuring movies, they live in a very specific place in the horror world, right? They are all period pieces. So they have a very distinct style and look to them.
Yeah.
And I know you're not a fan of period pieces, but see, I am. So like, that's why I like the Conjuring films so much. I'll probably go back and rewatch Annabelle sometime this week. Because the way that this film ends kind of ties into the original film, the original Annabelle prequel.
They fucking Star Wars it, dude. It ends, exactly when the fucking next
but
one
in
begins.
this film, they did it way more seamlessly.
Well, yeah, they didn't have to like CGI your main actress like back to being fucking 20 again.
They didn't even have to CGI anything. It was literally like seamless into the beginning of Annabelle. I loved it. I thought that was one of the more successful things for me because like you and I said, we've kind of forgotten the Annabelle film. So like the way the film ends, it literally like it's seamless. It's like these like, here we go, two boards being laid right next to each other. Like you can't tell that there's a gap. This is one board and it's awesome. I mean, that's one of the more successful things is that this really does feel like this Annabelle story is now complete. You could watch, even if you're not a fan of the first Annabelle film, you could watch this film and that film together and it's a complete story. You see the progression, how this gets to the Warrens. But the thing about this film that the original Annabelle film suffered from, that this film doesn't suffer from, is characters that you care about. And the lack of Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson as the Warrens, obviously they're like the centerpiece. They're the center of this universe. Like when they're not in a film, obviously it's like they're like perfectly cast in The Conjuring. They're like the best part of either of those films is how expertly cast they were and their chemistry off of one another. When they're not in films in the Conjuring universe like this one, like Annabelle suffers, but I don't think this film suffers because there are enough great performances from child actors and the adult actors that I think it makes up for their absence, because realistically, you know, it's a pretty high tension in this film because the Warrens aren't around to save the day, because we know that they save the day in every film. In the last Conjuring 1 and 2, they save the day. And so that's what I was thinking about watching this film. I was like, when they're not here, like, the tension is ratcheted up just on its own, because they're not there to save the day and save these people that are being tormented by these demons.
Right. I don't know. I don't know. The biggest issue that I had with this movie right off the bat is that it's called Annabelle Creation, and the actual creation of the demonic doll and how the doll got that way is a secondary story to what happens in the movie.
Right.
And so
the title is a tad misleading.
It is. It is a little bit misleading.
I wouldn't even say a little misleading. It's very misleading.
Yeah, it's something like you're expecting to see one thing and then you just don't see that. And so you're like, oh.
But like realistically, though, when you do find out the creation behind the Annabelle doll and how the doll became a conduit for evil spirits, it's not that exciting anyways. So it's not like I was sitting here opining like, man, I really wish I saw how this doll became the doll.
I think I would have been stoked on that story.
We've had this conversation before about how when you sit and explain something, you take the wind out of the sails, you take the piss out of it completely. And like I like the idea that like the Annabelle.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show, and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice, and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.
Doll, the demon that's attached to it, 2 films later in The Conjuring 1 is still fucking around. And like we're not like really sure why. They're trying to explain it more here, and I think the explanation is probably for me one of the bigger stumbling points of the film, because the end of the film, like the kind of the final 2 scenes, it's a little I'm glad that they tied it into the original film, and that's awesome that they did so seamlessly, but it stumbles a little bit with the whole character of Janice.
So the way that we get from Annabelle Creation to Annabelle, the original prequel, God, that's such a weird concept. So how we get from new prequel to other prequel, Annabelle, is you have basically the character... Oh, God, see, now this is where my lack of remembering what the fuck happened in the original Annabelle is not going to help the situation.
In the original film, Annabelle, the character of Annabelle kills her adopted parents, who we later find out are adopted. And we find that out, I don't remember if in Annabelle, but we find out in this film that that's the case.
Right, well, yeah, she kills her parents, but then attacks the people next door.
Right.
And that's like the whole movie is like kind of told from the perspective of the woman from next door, and she has all these creepy dolls and shit.
And her husband brings her the Annabelle doll.
Right. And we don't know how the doll came back. And so this really brings the doll full circle. Like this movie, it full on brings everything full circle back around. You have Annabelle the doll, and then you have the possession of the doll comes full circle. I mean, oh God, yeah, it makes it very complicated.
Right, because it's never explained in Annabelle creation. Spoilers, obviously, if you haven't seen the film. One of the characters is possessed. It's very much just kind of similarly to how the character the mother, Mrs. Perrin, is possessed in The Conjuring. It's like the same thing, whereas like black goo is vomited into the mouth. It's like identical.
Yeah, that's like very indicative of what happens in this universe.
Right, which I'm okay with. I like that they're kind of keeping that through line about how possession works.
There's lots of different types of possession. You can get possessed all different kinds of ways.
Right, but it's just, for this universe, it's nice that there's a little bit of consistency. Like, we understand what's going on. She's possessed by an evil spirit. And so she is possessed by this demon, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a non-human entity. It's very much like they make a point of making it look very demonic. And so, yeah, like she gets, but it's only after she like finds the doll, because initially the doll is possessed and then they hide the doll away. Why you don't like burn the doll with fire or like bury it as far away from your house as you can humanly go?
I think they made that clear when Lulu Wilson's character takes the doll and drops it down the well. You can't get rid of it.
Right.
They literally just had to deal with it.
So if we're going to go back from the very beginning to sort of like sum up how we get to the doll and how what's-her-face gets possessed, you have these orphans who move into this house where these people who at the beginning of the movie, which takes place, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years earlier or something like that?
So this film takes place, the beginning of this film takes place 24 years before the original Annabelle film.
Right, and then it's like 10 years after that.
It's split into two 12-year times. There's the beginning of the film, and then the most of the film takes place 12 years after the beginning of the film.
Right. So in the beginning of the film, you have this guy who's a doll maker, and he makes what everybody knows is the Annabelle doll in like the opening sequence. So I'm like, okay, all right, this guy's fucking making this doll. Let's see what the fuck happens, and this doll gets possessed or whatever. And then like 3 minutes later, they're fucking driving home from church or whatever, and they get a flat tire, and his little girl runs out into the dirt road street or whatever and gets plowed over immediately by this car that's driving by. And I was just, that scene, like, because you just see her like dart out into the road or whatever to like grab something that fell down, and you know the car is coming, and she just gets fucking owned in the face, like immediately. I was like, oh fuck, this movie is not playing around, like right away. But then it jumps ahead like 12 years, and I was like, oh fuck, like for real? Like what is going on? And you have all of the orphans that are now going to stay at these people's house for some reason, because their orphanage got shut down, and these people are like, you can have the orphanage at our house.
They're trying to absolve themselves of the sins of conjuring a demon.
Oh, allowing a demon into their home or whatever.
It turns out they kind of conjured it, because you hear him say that they were praying to whatever higher power would allow them
to see their little girl. Right. So then the whole story is then the doll gets found, and it's in this weirdly like creepy room that has all this like scripture basically like pasted to the walls around it, and it was never supposed to be let out or whatever. And you find out sort of like as the movie goes on that the family was like, we want our daughter back, blah 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 blah, and then they start seeing glimpses of their daughter or hearing their daughter around the house, and they're like okay with it. They're like, this is cool, we totally like this. And I'm like, nobody is like that. Nobody in their right mind is like, oh, this is fine. Everybody would just be like, oh fuck no, this is fucking weird, this is bad.
I don't know. I didn't take any issue with that. I mean, they're grieving parents, so like I think they're trying to make a point that like they're not in the right mindset until they see a reflection in the mirror of like literally a fucking demon. That was the thing. The demon looked straight out of Insidious. It wasn't like anything we'd seen in the Conjuring universe up until this point.
Well, we haven't like truly seen like a demon so far. Everything has been like these weird human personifications of like whatever entity is haunting the shit. Except for like maybe the nun, which they totally now, I mean, we know that they're going to do a nun prequel movie because they've said that they're going to do an evil nun movie.
It's already done, bro.
Well, yeah. Well, in this movie, they fucking show you the nun. They're like, yeah. I mean, like we kind of started off the fucking episode with, you missed it, but there's like a picture that the nun that's at this like orphanage with all the little girls has, and like Lulu or whatever Lulu's character's name is sees it, and she's like, oh, this is nice, and she's like, oh yeah, it's from like nun school when we were in fucking Italy or whatever. And as she like turns the picture a little bit in the light, you can see an extra person that you can't see if you're just looking at it normally, in like the shadows, like next to everybody else, and it's the fucking evil nun. It's the fucking creepy nun.
That's awesome.
And so the little girl's like, oh, who's that? And the nun's like, oh, I don't know. Like, she either says, oh, I don't know, or she's like, oh, that's nun, what's her face? Like, nobody fucking talks to her. I don't remember. But yeah, they fucking full on had it, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, they're doing a universe, man.
They're doing it. They're really going for it.
Good.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah. Back to kind of the way that this film, it doesn't really address the creation aspect of the Annabelle character. And
I mean, it does.
It does, but it doesn't. It leaves it like kind of open, right?
I mean, the family basically eventually, you know, they see all these glimpses of their daughter around their house and everything, and start hearing her. And
how does that translate into
the doll?
The girl at the end being like, "My name is Annabelle." Why did the demon take that name? Just because it had been called that name for so long?
No, yeah, it was their daughter's name was Annabelle.
Right. No. I got that. But what I'm saying is like, why was the demon just like, yeah, Annabelle?
Because why not? I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, kind of my issue with the end of the film is just like the way the film ends. It really.
Well, it's like you have to connect those dots. Like, how else are you going to connect the dots?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I kind of almost feel like this film is this film is them trying to make up for the fact that the first Annabelle film wasn't great. So they're like, how can we like kind of write out the first Annabelle film a little bit and kind of like because this is almost retconning, right?
Nah, not really.
It's kind of retconning a little bit because I can prove it. So if this film had never been made, the doll would have been named Annabelle because the woman who killed herself over the doll in the first film was named Annabelle, right? Right. So you come to this film, someone has to be named Annabelle in this film for the way that this film's ending plays out to make sense, right? So
right.
What I'm saying is I feel like they tried to not. Retcon, I think, is too strong. They tried to change it from the get-go so that the Annabelle film works a little bit better.
Right, yeah, so that the stakes are higher.
Right, and so that it's not just like, well, she's called Annabelle because this woman broke into our house and killed herself over the doll. And so now it's like associated with Annabelle Higgins, who started a cult and killed herself. Because they never mention any of this whole, like, Saint Eunice's school for girls. They never mention any of that in the original Annabelle film.
No. Well, I mean, the original Annabelle film is like a...
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster. You know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres, so join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Very I mean, it all takes place in one like real small area over the course of like one night. So it's like,
it's not one night. See,
It's not?
No, it's not. It's a lot longer movie than I think you remember.
no.
Yeah. They move to like an apartment at one point, and then the climax of the film is like I remember it being rather not crazy, but it's definitely like the climax of the film I think was very reminiscent of The Conjuring 2.
Where everything is just going fucking bonkers or whatever. And
Yeah, the ending is very reminiscent of The Conjuring 2, I believe. But that aside, I do like that they kind of gave us a character in Annabelle the doll that makes sense and works and is believable, and it's like rooted in human trauma as opposed to just like, it just happened. Okay.
yeah.
Makes sense?
No, I agree. Yeah, this movie definitely gives a way better context to the doll than the original Annabelle movie did. And so you're kind of right. In a way, they didn't necessarily like retcon the first Annabelle movie.
They cut off the original Annabelle film. Like driving down a freeway, they just like got in front of it and like, hold on, let us do this first. Like, let us fix this first, and then you can have your fun. We're not going to change anything really. We're just going to like flesh out these characters.
They embellished the story to a point where the stakes were high enough for you to give a shit.
Yeah, in the original prequel.
Right, exactly.
Which is a good thing. Like, we don't have a whole lot of films like this one. That like prequel stuff.
Yeah.
Not that we need films like this.
I'm tired of prequels in general, so to have a prequel to a prequel is just like, good fucking God, dude, come on.
But the thing is, I feel like the reason that you and I don't like prequels, other than, hey, someone could come up with an original idea once in a while, for me, it's most prequels aren't very good.
Well, most prequels aren't very good, and most of the time, I don't care where X, Y, and Z comes from.
Right.
I don't. Like, I don't care where Han Solo comes from. I just fucking like Han Solo, dude. Why do I need to know where Han Solo came from? I don't. I like it better that I don't know where Han Solo came from.
Right.
But, like, you know, now we're going to learn. We're going to learn where Disney and George Lucas think that Han Solo came from. And it's going to suck, and it's going to be bad, you know. Did I ever like care about how we got the plans of the Death Star? No, not really. I mean, is that a cooler idea than Han Solo? Yes, but like, come on, I don't know. All my prequel references are just going to be Star Wars movies, by the way.
I was about to say, yeah, it's not much else. That's what I do like about prequels in this universe. It's that this is like all from scratch. Like, this is not anything else from before, right? Like, they're literally prequelizing stuff that they came up with to begin with. Like, yes, there's an Annabelle doll in reality, but like, this is not its actual backstory in film form.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, fucking all the stuff that happened in The Conjuring 2 is so loosely based off of what happened in real life that it's like not even remotely close. So, I mean,
but again, I mean, it's a movie, right? Like, they're allowed to take artistic license with stuff. And frankly, I mean, some of the best stuff in The Conjuring 2 was the stuff that they introduced on their own. Like the nun, like the crooked man. I was gonna say Slender Man because that's pretty much what he is. But that's kind of the cool stuff from that film. Like the nun and the crooked man. That's the cool stuff from that film.
Some of that stuff is like semi based off of things that actually happened. But yeah, like the nun is a totally fabricated thing. I liked The Conjuring 2 a lot less than I liked the first one.
Well, the second one is really just all over the place.
Yeah, and I think the second one, you know, the first one they make as this sort of like, here's this movie. Like, if this movie does well, then like maybe we can do more movies like this. But it's like that movie feels like a standalone movie. Like, this movie has its own legs. And it tells this story from start to finish, even though I hate the ending because happy endings are bullshit. All the other movies feel like they're sequels or like they're universe movies. Like, they don't feel like they stand on their own feet. Like, it feels like you're watching an episode of a TV show in the middle of the season and you don't fucking understand where like all these inside nods and jokes and whatever like are hinting at or coming from. And there's like all this stuff that you could watch it and it could be totally fine. But at the same time, in order to understand where everything is coming from and how you got to this point and where you're going afterwards, it's like you have to fucking watch all the goddamn movies. And that's kind of how I felt during this movie, that it was like very much like there's so many nods to like other Conjuring universe things in this movie that it almost took me out of it in like a couple of spots, to the point where I was like, come on guys, like let's fucking just like focus on this movie. But I don't know, maybe that's just everybody is trying to go for that very James Wan like esque look and feel to everything, and because they're creating this universe, they're always giving you these subtle hints and clues throughout the movies that are going to show you what's coming up next or whatever, and how everything is interconnected. That's the thing, is like within our lifetimes now, we have seen the dawn and evolution of like the big universe productions. You know, we have the Marvel universe. We have the Star Wars universe now. You know, we have the DC universe. We have the fucking, what happened to like one and done movies? Like, there's no such thing anymore.
One and dones don't make as much money as movies that are connected.
Right. And so, like, I feel like my biggest gripe with all of these movies, and this movie included, even though I genuinely liked a lot of this movie, is that it feels too universey to me. Like, it doesn't feel like it is a strong enough movie to stand on its own feet and be enjoyed without knowing anything about any of the other movies, you know?
Well, on that note, we're going to take a break and play the interview with director David F. Sandberg. He talks, obviously, about Annabelle creation. We talk a little bit about Lights Out. And also, we talk about Shazam, the DC Extended Universe. Speaking of Extended Universes, the DC Extended Universe film that he's going to be directing that'll be coming out in 2019.
Did you ask him about Shaq?
Fuck yourself. Mind you, this interview was recorded less than a week after Comic-Con, where it was announced that he was the director. So we didn't have a whole lot of details at the time, but I did ask him a couple questions. So we will be back with more discussion after the interview and commercials.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
Week after week, I'm mesmerized by the focus given great films and questionable films alike. But every episode is a learning and entertaining experience.
This is hands down the best movie podcast. They cover so many different genres across so many years, from obscure movies to blockbusters.
If there's only one podcast about movies and cinema that you listen to, make it this one.
The Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
I've read a little bit about you kind of being a freelance animator and working on like very low to no budget horror shorts. So kind of tell me kind of what got you into film, some of your influences, kind of what really drove you to be a filmmaker.
Well, I've just always wanted to be a filmmaker. Like, I don't remember what sparked it, because it's just always been there. And, I grew up, I was a kid in the 80s, so was inspired by a lot of 80s stuff, like Aliens and Terminator, a lot of James Cameron and Spielberg, and then horror movies just in general as well. And I started making little short movies with my dad's video cameras as soon as I could, just get friends together and make shorts. But then as I got older, once I got in my early 20s, it got kind of hard to keep making movies, with friends, to just, hey, let's get together and make a movie, because people have jobs and lives all of a sudden. So that's sort of how I got into animation there for a bit, just because that was something I could do all by myself. So I didn't have to rely on other people's schedules.
And so in 2013, you released the short Lights Out. Obviously now, 3 years later, it came out last year in 2016 as a feature-length film.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that process of taking that film from a short to a feature-length film, and how James Wan eventually got involved with producing that film.
After doing animation for so many years, I felt like, well, what I really want to do is like live-action genre films. But I couldn't get money for that from the Swedish Film Institute and so on. So my wife Lotta and I decided to just start making no-budget shorts by ourselves. And the second one we made was Lights Out, that we were incredibly fortunate enough to have go viral online. And all of a sudden, all these people in Hollywood wanted to talk to me and about directing or remaking a feature film version out of Lights Out. And so the first producer, or the one that I sort of connected with, was Lawrence Gray. And he felt that, we should have some sort of big name in horror to help out with this. And he suggested James Wan. And fortunately enough, James Wan had seen the short and was totally on board. So, with him on board, we went to New Line because he has his relationship with New Line, and they wanted to make it. And surprisingly enough, I got to direct it, because that's something I was afraid wouldn't happen, just because I had so little experience and had only done no budget shorts.
And so you took this initial idea that you had, this short, and you transformed it into a feature-length film. Were you pinching yourself the entire time you were working on the full-length film?
Yeah, in so many ways, just because I'd never been on a film set before. We're from Sweden, so all of a sudden we had to fly over here to the US and make a movie. So it was a lot. It was sort of a crash course in how films are made here, because there was a lot I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what everyone on a film set did. So that was a lot of the interviewing people would be like, okay, so you're a script supervisor. What does a script supervisor actually do? And I didn't know when you're actually supposed to say action on a film set, and all these things that I all just had to learn all of a sudden. So it was kind of hard at times, because it was pretty overwhelming. And I had this sort of pressure that I sort of put on myself that this better be great, because this is my one shot in Hollywood. If this doesn't turn out great, then I'll have to go back to Sweden and continue to make no budget shorts.
How involved were you with that? The adaptation process of your original idea?
Pretty involved. So what happened was, at first I was sort of paired up with another writer who wanted to do a much bigger movie, which scared me, because if I was going to direct it, I would want to do something that something more contained, that I felt that I could control a little bit more, and also something that could be done pretty cheaply. So they would actually let me do it. So that writer's idea sort of scared me. So I wrote down my own idea instead. I wrote a little treatment of what I wanted the movie to be, which was this story about a family that was more contained, and there was just one creature as opposed to many. And, that original writer wasn't as interested in that. But then Lawrence, again, the producer, knew Eric Heiser and took that to him. And he liked the story so much that he agreed to write the script on spec. And a lot of that original treatment is still in the movie.
So that must be even more exciting for you, that some of the stuff that you wrote on the motion picture film even made it into that film.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was funny, even before I sort of wrote the story, I had all these ideas of fun stuff you could do with the concept. Okay, we could have, if someone fires a gun at her, then the muzzle flashes will make her disappear. And if someone is held up by her, he could push on a key fob to his car and turn the lights on, and all these little fun things you could do. I just made a list of those, and we tried to put as many of those in the movie as possible.
You guys made the film for a little under $5 million, and it became this kind of box office smash. How did you feel when you kind of saw the reaction to the film, the critically and a financial success? What was that like for you?
It was fantastic and a huge relief. But at the same time, I was lucky enough I'd already started work on Annabelle Creations. We were actually in the middle of shooting that when Lights Out came out, which was a good thing, because it allowed me to not, if I hadn't been just focused, on set working, making this other movie, I would probably just be at home and refreshing the internet and just reading everything and just focusing too much on that. So that, working through it allowed me to not pay as much attention to it as I probably would have otherwise. But yeah, it was a huge relief more than anything.
I've read that the sequel to Lights Out was greenlit essentially right after the film came out last year. You and the screenwriter are coming back, but news came out last week at Comic-Con that you're now involved with the DC Extended Universe.
Yeah.
Kind of, has that changed your kind of trajectory for the next couple years, being involved in a much bigger studio production film?
Yeah, because that's going to take up a lot of time. But we still haven't, it's not completely decided what we do with Lights Out, because I still want to direct it. But we'll see how it works out timing wise and how we can solve all that. And Lights Out 2 is definitely happening. But yeah, Shazam is going to take up a lot of time.
How did you get involved with Annabelle creation?
It was actually during post-production on Lights Out. We had tested the movie and it tested great. And the studio, came to me and said, hey, we're doing a prequel to Annabelle. And would you want to direct that? And, I wanted to make more movies, and I loved working with New Line. So, of course, I mean, at first there was a little bit of hesitation just because I was like, well, what's that going to be? A sequel to Annabelle. Like, what more can you do with it? But then I read the script by Gary Doberman, and it was such a separate thing from the first Annabelle that it felt, it was something I could make my own. It wasn't just the same movie one more time with the same characters and the same setting and all of that. It was just a completely different story, which made it a lot more fun.
Were you involved at all with the writing of the script?
Well, I mean, as a director, you're always the script was still being written when I came on board, so I had input. Like there were scenes added that I wanted to add or tweaked and stuff like that. And as a director, you're always changing things up and making it more your own. Especially in a horror movie. A lot of the horror scenes was stuff that I sort of came up with or at least tweaked to make my own a lot. But the basic story of the film was already written, or was all Gary.
How does this film differ from the original Annabelle film?
The first Annabelle was very small. I mean, it's just this couple in an apartment, basically. It's very contained. And Annabelle Creation has a much bigger scope. And there's a lot more. It is this story about these orphaned girls who come live in this house in the middle of nowhere where, Annabelle was created. And there was a lot of fun to be had with just all the various ways evil could manifest in this movie. Because that's sort of the thing with Annabelle, that she doesn't, she's not, Chucky from Child's Play. She doesn't run around and kill people. She's mostly stationary. So you kind of have to come up with all these things around her, which was both a challenge, but also a lot of fun to sort of come up with, okay, how can she affect the environment here? What things can come alive, or how can we really torture our characters?
What was it like working with some of the child actors and some of the adult actors on Annabelle Creation?
Well, I've had a great experience working with child actors. I mean, we had Gabriel in Lights Out, who's actually the Talitha, who plays Janice in Annabelle Creation, is the sister of Gabriel from Lights Out. But no, I mean, you always hear don't work with children or animals. And I sort of assumed that's because, they must suck or something. But I've had great experiences working with them. They're so professional and just great. I think the reason why you shouldn't work with children is just because of the hours. They can't work long hours. And, when the time is up, the time is up, even if you're in the middle of shooting something, which makes it a challenge, but it makes it worth it because they're so great in the movie. And I think especially in a horror movie, just having kids be the protagonist adds that extra level of, you care for them. You don't want to see them get hurt. So that adds to sort of the tension of.
And what about maybe working with some of the other adult actors like Anthony LaPaglia or Miranda Otto?
Yeah, that's just what's so awesome about doing this, is that I get to work with all these people that I sort of admire and have seen in all these films. And now I get to direct them, which is really weird. And I was, Miranda, Lights Out hadn't come out. So I met her to sort of talk about the movie. And I sort of told her my story about Lights Out and everything. And she wanted to see the Lights Out movie. And I was terrified. I was, that day when she went to New Line to see an early copy of the film, because I was like, oh, she's going to come out of there and she's just going to not want to do this because she's going to think I'm terrible or something. But, she came out of there and still wanted to do it. And no, I just, and these, both her and Anthony, they've been doing this for such a long time that they're so easy to direct because they really get into their characters and they know exactly what sort of questions to ask from me to get their characters right. So there's no sort of having to drag performances out of them. They just get it, and it makes your job so much easier.
How does this kind of fit into all of those kind of narratively and is there any kind of through lines other than the Annabelle doll? Are there any other through lines that you can talk about? I'm obviously not asking you to spoil anything.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there are sort of, we reference the nun from the Conjuring, and we do tie things up with, even though you don't have to have seen the first Annabelle to enjoy this one, we still sort of tie things up a bit in the end. So it certainly has its place within the timeline of the universe and everything. And you try to make it feel like it's one cohesive world, even though I put my own spin on it.
What was it like working on a period horror piece?
Well, I love that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to do it, just because, there's something about period that just lends itself so well to horror. And not just because they don't have cell phones, but just I don't know. There's something sort of scary about the past in a way. Like if you look at old photos, in antique shops and stuff, these 100-year-old photos, they're kind of creepy. And, there's just something creepy about the past. And it was a lot of fun to just look at reference to like how people dressed back then. What did a nun look like back in the 50s and the cars and all of that. So yeah, I loved it. It inspired me as well to sort of shoot the film in a more classic way, sort of old school Hollywood, with sort of longer takes and sort of figuring out the blocking and the staging more instead of just shooting regular coverage and all of that. So, and that's something I want to do more of, even if I don't shoot period movies. So it was really inspiring to sort of go back to that well.
So kind of my last set of questions, Annabelle Creation it's already shown in front of an audience at LAFF at the Los Angeles Film Festival.
And now at Comic-Con as well.
Right, at Comic-Con last week. What was it like being there and seeing the reaction to the film?
It was great. I mean, LA Film Fest was like the best screening I've ever been to because the audience was so vocal. Like they were jumping and laughing, and they were so into the movie. I mean, that's everything you can hope for as a director. And that's what makes horror so rewarding, when you get to sit in that audience and you see that it works. These things you were trying to do, that it actually works.
And so when it premiered last week at Comic-Con, was that similar reaction? Was it more fervent because, I mean, it's in front of like just diehard fans to begin with?
I mean, it was pretty similar there too. I mean, seemed to be very into it and got a lot of great comments afterwards about how much they liked it. And I was surprised to see the kind of interest that was down there, like people standing in line for hours, and like they had to send away. We filled up 2 theaters, and then they had to send away like 500 people that couldn't get in. So I was very pleasantly surprised to see that it was such an interest for this movie.
Last week, it was confirmed that you are involved with the Shazam film as the director. What's that like? The news coming out, obviously on the biggest stage possible at Comic-Con in San Diego. What's the last week been like since that news came out?
A lot of questions, a lot of new followers on Twitter with a lot of questions that I can't answer. They ask about casting and about the design of the suit and sort of what comics will be the inspiration for the movie and all of these things that I unfortunately can't answer. And even when they ask me about, hey, what do you think about this character? And I kind of have to stay away from it, because even if I say, yeah, that's a great character or that's a terrible character, then automatically that will become like, oh, it's confirmed that this character is going to be in the movie or not in the movie. So it is a little bit of a minefield that you have to navigate to make sure that it's not a bunch of articles with wrong information.
Or were you a fan of the comic book before they approached you to be involved with the film?
To be honest, I wasn't that familiar with it. Like, I knew who he was. But back in Sweden, from my understanding, they released that comic book in the 70s. But then, when I grew up, he wasn't really around. So it's sort of a later thing that I've seen him pop up in like Justice League and these things. So to be honest, it wasn't like I was a lifelong fan, but I love the idea of it. Like it is this thing that I've been saying, like what kind of kid doesn't want to be Superman, right? That's every kid's dream. And this is a kid that actually, in a way, gets to be Superman.
How did you end up on their radar for the film?
It was New Line once again. I mean, they were very happy with how Annabelle turned out, and we certainly want to work together again. And we're sort of looking at, okay, so what else can we do? And then they called me up one day and was like, hey, would you be interested in directing Shazam? And it was like, fuck yeah. I got to meet with Jeff Johns and, it was kind of weird because it was like, there wasn't a moment of just, yeah, you got the job, kid. It was just sort of a slow realization of, I guess this is really happening. And that's kind of still the feeling of, wow, I guess this is actually a thing.
So it's nice to see that the studios are hiring directors that are genre filmmakers, and they're not just going with like massive established names as opposed to like up and coming directors like yourself and John Watts and Ryan Coogler and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that seems to happen a lot these days. But I'm glad I at least that I did Annabelle before sort of anything, because I've seen some people, other directors make tiny indies and then they go to like $150 million films. At least I've had a little bit of first Lights Out and then Annabelle, which was a little bigger, and we shot that on a sound stage, and I got to learn a little bit more. So it feels at least, okay, I got a little more experience there. I didn't have to make the jump from tiny to big.
Is there anything you're working on now? I mean, obviously, is it full steam ahead on Shazam, or is there anything else in between now and 2019?
We're trying to see if we can fit in before that. So Lotta and I, my wife, we're working on some TV stuff as well and have some other things. But it might be just Shazam until then, because, it's a big thing.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me and talk about Annabelle and Shazam and Lights Out.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Who is Carl Kolchak?
He's a reporter.
Now that is news, Vincenzo. News! And we are a newspaper. We are supposed to print news, not suppress it.
With the INS.
What's an INS?
Independent news service, sir. Founded in 1904 by Enrico Paluzzi.
Who seems to have a nose for the strange and unusual.
Well, last year in Las Vegas, I uncovered a series of murders that turned out to have been committed by a vampire.
And what is the Kolchak Tapes?
It's a podcast.
All about Carl Kolchak.
What's a Kolchak?
The Night Stalker.
And where can you get it?
On iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.kolchaktapes.com.
As foolish a game as any that Gory the Ghoul could make up.
Movies have become a portal to a vast and growing pop culture universe, but you don't need to go over the rainbow to get your pop culture fix. Just head to Rainbow Comics, Cards, and Collectibles. They are your one-stop shop for comics, toys, posters, games, and more. Not a pop culture nerd? No problem. They have something for everyone, including a wide array of sports cards, collectible card games, even memorabilia. Stop by one of their 2 locations today. The flagship location at 3310 South Minnesota Avenue, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or their newest location at 1501 Pine Lake Road, Suite 17, Lincoln, Nebraska. Most importantly, don't forget to add them on Facebook for pop culture news, weekly live videos, and special events.
All right, we're back. Big thanks to David F. Sandberg for sitting down and talking with me about his career up until this point and kind of what he's working on for the future. Let's get back into talking about this film. I want to touch on something that you were talking about that took you out of the film, which is the similarities to and connections to the other Conjuring films. I didn't have a problem with, namely because I liked connected universes.
Oh, God.
So as a horror fan, and as horror being my favorite genre, it bummed me out. It bums me out that we don't have our own connected universe, and now we do. So for me, it's like, okay, well, as long as they're being made well, as long as James Wan is involved, which he is, then, you know, I'm okay with this. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, this film is probably more Avengers, Conjuring 2 is probably more Avengers Age of Ultron than anything else, because it puts a bunch of roots down for stuff that's like, down the road, we're going to be talking about the Nun and the Crooked Man if this movie makes money. So, like, looking at it that way, but I didn't really feel like they beat me over the head with stuff in this film.
Yeah, it's definitely less so. I'm being pretty nitpicky here because I overall liked this movie. There was just like a couple of things about this movie that made it so that it was good and not great.
See, that in and of itself, though, is great for a film that is a...
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
Prequel to a film that is not great. On top of the fact that this is a prequel horror film, and prequel horror films, for the most part, aren't good.
Yeah, like The Thing.
Or Hannibal Rising.
Ugh.
Or The Thing, yeah.
Is Red Dragon a prequel? Red Dragon's a prequel.
Red Dragon is technically a prequel, but Red Dragon is trash compared to Manhunter, which is technically a prequel, but not with the same actors.
I like Red Dragon better than I like Manhunter.
The fuck out of here. Manhunter is amazing.
It's so bad. I can't take that fucking dude seriously because he's in fucking one of those NCIS shows or whatever.
He was in the original CSI.
Oh, whatever. Who cares?
William Peterson?
Yeah, dude, fuck that guy.
Okay, I don't watch that film for William Peterson. I watch that film for Tom Noonan, who, don't get me started on him, I don't have the nicest things to say. And the soundtrack and the fact that it's directed by Michael fucking Mann. And it's just like, it's just that the 80s, it's just got that 80s aesthetic to it.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate that 80s aesthetic. I don't like it.
Get out of here.
Dude, Ralph Fiennes, man. That guy's a fucking monster, dude. He's the best.
Yeah, that movie's not great. Okay, that movie isn't even as good as the season of Hannibal that they did based off of the Red Dragon books.
I didn't even watch those TV shows. So
that is a massive disappointment.
The TV show?
No, the fact that you haven't watched the TV show.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. I'll get on it.
Literally need to just start watching it as soon as we're done recording.
I think I watched the first episode and they did this like really like stupid thing where like everything goes in slow motion and there's like this Matrix-y shit while like Hannibal
they don't do that.
Like,
they don't do that very often past the first episode.
I want them to never do it because it made me not watch the rest of the episode after I saw that and any episode subsequently.
Well, they explain it pretty well as to what it is, so it kind of worked. I think it works better than you're giving it credit for, but that's because I watched the whole show, that's why.
All right, I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, you should. You should also, speaking of, again, this kind of like this idea of prequels to stuff sucking and sequels sucking, I would say all of these films, these Conjuring films, are way better than most horror sequels ever are.
Yeah.
You didn't like The Conjuring 2, but The Conjuring 2 is still better than... I don't know, most horror sequels. Like, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head unless I want to go to the well of, like, most of the Friday the 13th movies and most of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. You have a film like Friday the 13th, which is a slasher classic. Then the second film is, just astoundingly bad. You have Nightmare on Elm Street, which is one of my favorite horror movies. And then you have the gayest horror movie ever made. And I'm not discriminating. I'm literally saying it's just homosexual undertones.
The whole time.
It's
like infamously like one of the gayest movies of all time.
But like not like outwardly gay. It's like gay undertones. It's like like the subtext is gay.
You watch that
Freddy
movie
wants
and
to
you're
be
like,
Freddy wants to be inside of the character. Like
you're like, this is a little gay. Like, is this gay? Is this?
It's not even a little gay. It's a lot gay.
It's very gay. It's super gay. God, I'm getting hard just thinking about it. All right.
But most horror sequels and prequels aren't good.
The idea of a horror movie, like intrinsically, is like a weird thing to have like sequels to that. You know, you talked about Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, which is, you know, in the 80s and everything. Plus you had the Halloween franchise. I mean, in our sort of generation, we have now had the Saw franchise, which is coming back, and we have had the Paranormal Activity franchise,
which was bad from every film past the first one.
Yeah, I like the second one a little bit. The first two I thought were pretty decent. I mean, the idea and the execution in the first movie, I thought, you know, I was like, cool. We did the Blair Witch Project, you know, 10 years after the Blair Witch Project or whatever. And, you know, it was still good. But I mean, the whole point that I'm trying to make is it's hard to make horror movies. To me, have always been like such isolated incidences, you know, and that's kind of what makes them effective, I think, is like you want to see the whole thing from beginning to end. You want to see, you know, whatever the inciting incident or the catalyst is that sort of like brings all of your characters together, or brings, you know, whatever sort of evil, horrific, you know, shit down upon these people. You want to then see the chaos ensue, and, you know, and then you want to see the end. You want to see who comes out alive, or if nobody comes out alive, or, you know, it's very much like this is a finished thing from beginning to end. And then in order to have a sequel to that, you have to leave it open-ended, which doesn't work super well in a lot of like horror movie situations, you know?
Well, I kind of always feel cheated when a horror movie leaves it open-ended.
Exactly. And so like that's why you want to see movies that have, you know, a solid ending to them, that you can kind of go, all right, that's fucked up that everybody died, or like, damn, dude, that one chick survived, she fucking killed the bad guy, you know, or whatever. But now we're making movies that are purposefully leading into other movies, and so the ending of this movie irked me. Like, I felt cheated at the end of this movie, because it's just like, oh, we just created this thing, and oh, by the way, here's the beginning of the movie that this movie is a prequel of. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, come on, guys.
I think it works pretty well because it puts it all into one piece. Like, it's here. Like, one, like, you get the whole idea all the way through. And even if it's a little muddied, like, I'm still okay with it, because ultimately...
But do you think that they would have had to make it so full circle at the end of this movie if the first Annabelle movie had been better?
No, I don't think they would have had to, obviously. But again, the first Annabelle film is not great, so...
No, so the reason that they had to make this movie end the way that it did, 5 minutes before, or it's not even 5 minutes before, it's 5 minutes into the Annabelle movie or whatever.
This film ends during the first film.
Yeah, it literally ends with shots from the first film. I can recognize that the reason that they did that is because they had to fix whatever mistakes they made with the first film. But that's, I don't know. For me, I don't want to see stuff like that. I want to see things, like I said earlier, that are going to stand on their own and not be like this movie is almost like, we came out with this book that we told everybody was going to be amazing, and that everybody was like, I don't get it. It's not that great. Like, this isn't, what does this have to do with this other shit? And then they had to come out with like a whole nother book that has a whole big addendum, like in the first half of the book. And then the last, chapter of the book is like a whole thing leading up to their first book. And so they're like, now, look, with this companion piece, everything makes sense. I don't want that. I don't want to have to watch 2 movies in order to get the full fucking story. Give me one fucking movie.
I mean, I understand why it bothers you, but for me, again, being a fan of this universe, I kind of just overlooked it.
It's easy to overlook, especially because this movie's a lot better than...
Well, yeah, that's for damn sure.
I'm really shitting on a lot of stuff, like especially with, connected universes and things like that. But this movie it's a good movie. It's definitely worth watching, especially if you're a fan of the other Conjuring movies. It's definitely in the same vein. feels, it's great that they have created this universe that has this feeling, and it's not even, it's not like James Wan is going to direct all of these fucking movies or whatever.
And he's not even coming back for the third one.
It's nice. It's nice to have like a really solid feeling franchise all the way through. They all feel very connected. They all feel in the same, universe, even though they're having, they've now had a couple of different directors direct movies that are, related to or directly prequels to movies in the same universe. So we'll see how it goes, further on down the line.
And also, this film further solidified for me, because we never really got a chance to talk about it, but you pushed me to watch it. Ouija 2.
Yeah.
Origin of Luigi.
Yeah, Luigi 2, Origin of the Waweg.
The Waweg boards. Lulu Wilson is the best child actor working in horror right now.
Yeah, it's amazing how this little girl is just like fucking killing it, dude. She's great in this movie.
She's fantastic in this film. I swear to God, her eyes. Just like the most expressive eyes you've seen on a child. They're insane.
Yeah, seriously. It's crazy, man. Yeah. This little girl can act.
All the children actors in this film are fantastic.
Yeah, I don't.
They carry the film because
the whole movie's revolving around these two little girls, So, and it's an orphanage, so you have all these girls of varying ages, from what seems like fairly young, like maybe 10-ish, to like maybe 17-ish or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know. The acting in this movie,
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
I thought was great. There wasn't a performance that really stuck out to me as like being not good. Honestly, I thought that Lulu's performance was better than the main girl. But I think it also helped her character be more believable. So yeah, I mean, it didn't take away from it didn't take away from her at all. It almost made everything better, which is great. That's the kind of shit that you want to see, is that things aren't carried so heavily by one person that if they're not on their shit, then the whole movie kind of falls apart. I don't know.
I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get to see more of Anthony LaPaglia, personally.
No, he was great. I honestly thought that he was probably the best character in the whole movie. Because he's like kind of this happy-go-lucky like dad in the 40s or whatever. I don't know. It's in like the Dust Bowl, and they're driving these shitty beater-old cars and going to church and shit, and he's building this fucking really creepy doll that every little girl probably wants in the 1920s or whatever. And then his daughter gets hit by a car in front of him, and so then he's just like, it's interesting to see him 12 years later. He's like this really hardened dude who is like seen some shit, obviously, but at the same time is like, I want to make sure that these little girls have like a place to stay or whatever. And like, he's a good dude, but he's also like I've seen some shit dude. And then as the movie goes on, you realize how much shit this guy's actually seen. And it's like stuff that you'd never want anybody to ever see, especially like after the shit happens to his wife and her fucking eye gets fucking and it's just a socket. I was like, oh no, that's not cool. She full on Phantom of the Opera.
Horribly ripped out by their child.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah, full on Phantom of the Opera style shit going on. I mean, we haven't really talked about this movie was rated R.
I still don't understand why.
And I don't really either. And there are two things that in my mind would make this movie deserving of an R rating is the seldom grotesquely violent sequences. I mean, at one point you see the mother, she's torn in half and then crucified on the wall. And there's the dad.
The way Anthony LaPaglia dies is awful.
Yeah, it's really anticlimactic. I would have liked to have seen something like, more fitting for his character, especially because he's already fought this demon or whatever this was once before. You would think that, he would have some sort of ability to, I don't know, fight a little bit longer than 30 seconds or whatever with a cross, and then gets all his fingers fucking broken or whatever. And can we talk about how strong his grip is, that he can somehow still hold on to the cross even after all of his fingers are broken backwards? I was amazed by that. I was like, how is he not dropping that thing? He's just palming it. He's got the strongest palms in the biz. There are some grotesque sequences in this movie. Some of the stuff is like pretty violent, but like nothing is like over the top. Like, we're not talking Evil Dead style shit here. Like, it's not, we're not talking buckets of blood, or people getting fucking chopped in half. Well, somebody gets chopped in half, but you don't see it happen. Yeah, I didn't feel like there was a lot of cussing in this movie, but I do kind of remember the main little girl calling somebody a cunt, but that might have just been me saying that in my head about something that happened in the movie. If you throw around the word cunt, you're getting an R rating. Especially if a little girl says it like in a creepy way and there's like a little bit of blood in the movie. Yeah, that'll give you an R rating real fast, especially because it's like a mainstream movie. I didn't feel like this movie deserved an R rating. I didn't walk out of this movie going like, damn, they cussed a lot, or like, damn, there was a lot of violence, or like, that was really gruesome, or grotesque or whatever. I think that was like the first thing I thought about when I walked out of the movie. Was like, why was that rated R?
Yeah, I kind of came to the same conclusion. I couldn't figure it out either.
There's a website somewhere that explains it, so.
Yeah, right. So, last thing I wanted to talk about, I don't know if you saw it or not. Did you stay for the end credit sequence?
You know what? I thought about staying for the end credit sequence, and then I just didn't. Was there something interesting after the credits?
I don't know if you would have liked it, but they teased the witch film at the end of the film.
The witch film?
Or not, excuse me. They teased the nun film at the end of the film.
I was be like, this movie is connected to the witch somehow?
Oh, God, no, thank you. No thanks.
Oh, God, I can watch that movie any day.
They teased the nun film at the end of the film.
Okay, explain the teaser to me.
It was just like, I forget the setting. It's like a monastery, probably where the character that mentioned the nun to begin with in the film was.
So it's like sister, like, whatever her face?
Yeah, like wherever they were. And it shows like a hallway with lit candles. And all of a sudden you see the candles start going out. And you see like the darkness coming in. And then the nun is kind of like on the screen, a little hazy, but you can see the character and that's it. So they're like teasing where the character is going to be and kind of where the next film is, because it's the next film in this universe. So they're pulling like a full-on Marvel.
Yeah.
It's just a teaser. It's literally nothing else.
Yeah, like there's no like dialogue or anything. Like there's no characters or anything like that. It's just like, here's a creepy church hallway, and then there's the nun that you can kind of see in the shadows at the end.
No, she like walks up to the camera, yeah.
Oh.
So it's like, it's very clearly the nun. Like there's not a question.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, they already teased the nun earlier in the movie, so I'm surprised they teased it twice. Actually, no, I'm not surprised they teased it twice, because I didn't stay for the end credits, and you missed the first nun tease. So they got both of us, and we didn't even see the thing that the other person saw. Smart. This is fucking marketing. That's what it feels like to me, is these movies are made with such a crazy marketing team behind them that it's like they write the movie and then have the marketing team working alongside them and like exchange notes the whole time so that they can just weave in all the marketing shit into the movie while they're making it, so that it just, each movie is basically just a marketing ploy for the next movie, which is the same shit that Marvel does, or DC, or anybody now. But it's insane to me, like, how they do this shit, you know?
Well, they gotta set it up, and they gotta get people excited somehow.
I guess. I don't know, man.
So what would you give this film out of 5?
Out of 5. You know what? Out of 5, I'm gonna give this movie a 3. Like, it's a solid 3, maybe a 3.5. There was a couple of moments in this movie, like, that actually, there was one in particular that made me legitimately jump, which is awesome, because that hasn't happened in a long time. And there's not too many, like, of the, a lot of times movies now will have the build up to a nothing scare, you know, like the music gets all fucking suspenseful or whatever, and like the shot is like this really slow panning shot, like down a hallway or whatever, and the character is like, oh fuck, what the fuck was that noise? And then there's a fucking gerbil that like runs across the fucking floor or whatever, and everybody jumps and the fucking girls in the theater scream. But it's like not a real scare. And those really bother me. And this movie didn't have a bunch of those, which I was glad for. So I'll give this movie a solid 3.5. It was effective in its universe and definitely fixing a lot of the problems with the first movie. The acting overall was good. There was just like a couple of like trope things and like nitpicky small things here and there that I thought could have been done better. But I mean, this director's like second feature. So for your second feature-length movie to be this movie is pretty good. So kudos, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to give this a film a 3.5 out of 5. Like I said, I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoy this universe. So that, if that's saying anything, I love this universe. I love the aesthetic of the universe, and I really like the first two Conjuring films. So I'm a little biased, obviously. What do you think the film has on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, I'm sure it's got a pretty good rating. I'm sure it's like in the 80s somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 80 to 85.
68%.
Oh, not so good.
Yeah, Annabelle Creation adds another strong chapter to the Conjuring franchise and offers further proof that freaky-looking dolls remain reliably terrifying.
And the doll is like, I don't know what the thing about this movie is you get past the doll pretty quickly. Like once the doll is like no longer possessed anymore, it's like not a big deal, you know?
The doll is almost a MacGuffin, like in its own film, named after itself.
The doll was like pretty terrifying in like a couple of scenes because they would do this thing where they would basically divert your attention because something else would happen in the room. But while that was happening, the doll would like move or like turn its head or something. And throughout the movie, I would just watch the doll like in those sequences, and then you see the doll move and shit. And that's terrifying to me. I'm like, everybody else is watching this other shit that's happening, but the fucking doll is doing all this scary shit off to the side. Like, if they had done the movie more like that for the majority of the movie, I think that would have been a little bit better for the namesake of the movie, and maybe a little bit more effective in some other regards. But I mean, I don't know. You got to tell the story. Like, you got to get to the point where Annabelle, the first Annabelle, happens. So, and they made it there. You know, they did it successfully.
Well, let's take one final break and play a preview for next week's show. week with a discussion of In a Glass Cage, yet another controversial film for Controversial Film Month, and we'll be joined by our good friend Mike White of the Projection Booth podcast and the Kolchak tapes. Eric, what have you been up to?
I've been looking for movies recently that like I have missed, like this year or last year, that like I just never saw or didn't know about. And so I've been kind of like scanning through, like iTunes and Netflix and whatever, just to kind of like try and find something that like maybe I wanted to see or like saw a preview for or a billboard for somewhere and then just like never saw. So I watched one last night. It was called Phoenix Forgotten. It was a found footage style alien abduction like horror movie / semi documentary. It was actually produced by Ridley Scott. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a pretty effective little found footage like alien movie. And those are like, I think there are entirely not enough alien horror movies. And I don't mean alien as in the franchise Alien, because please.
There are more than enough of those.
Don't make more of those. Just, it's fine. Like Covenant was like cool and I kind of like it, but like I also don't like it because it fucks up so much that happened in Prometheus, which I liked a lot more than I liked Covenant. So I don't know. I like aliens in general. And I like found footage movies. I think if you do a found footage movie right, it like, I don't know. It's a more realistic, like terrifying thing that I am kind of into. But those movies are fucking impossibly hard to find because found footage movies by their nature are just going to be shitty and low budget and not done well. So I don't know. I thought this movie, it had an interesting story to tell because it was about the Phoenix Lights. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like strange, like 7 lights over Phoenix in like 1997 or whatever. And so it sort of tells the story of these 3 teenagers who, one teenager in particular gets obsessed with the lights and sort of gets 2 of his friends or 2 of these people that he meets to go along with him to try and find where the lights are going to show up next, because they show up in Phoenix, one day, and then a couple days later they're like in Mesa, Arizona, which is really close by. And so he's like, they're going to show up here next. And then these 3 kids just disappear and nobody finds them. So this movie it's really kind of set up as a documentary made by the main kid's sister, who was like, 6 years old at the time or whatever, when her teenage brother like went missing. And so it's 20 years later, it's set now. And so she's trying to find out what happened to her brother. She's like going back home and talking to all these people and just like trying to get some information. And she's not really getting anywhere until she finds a tape that nobody else has found yet. And it's like the missing tape that sort of brings everything full circle. It's an interesting story, and I think that's why I liked it. Shit like that with alien abductions and like weird lights in the sky and stuff, and like government cover-ups of like shit that people can't explain is like really interesting to me. And so I thought it was a cool idea to make a movie like based around something that was real, and then sort of like take your imagination from there. And so I don't know. I watched it and I liked it, and I don't know. The next movie on my movies that I missed thing will probably happen in the next couple of days or whatever. We'll figure out what that one is. What about you? What have you been up to?
I haven't really watched anything. I've just been busy doing other stuff. So
yeah,
you're watching enough stuff for the 2 of us, apparently. So
I guess, dude, between freaking Game of Thrones and Rick and Morty and alien abduction movies, I guess like
Game of Thrones getting leaked again.
You know what? I didn't even like. It's a big deal that it got leaked, but like I didn't even see any of the leaked shit like the first time around, and I still haven't seen any of the leaked shit this time around. I'm like, guys, you're making a really big deal out of this, and like
I've already watched the episode.
Oh, well, don't spoil it for me, because I will fly to your house and I will gut you like a fish.
Why? They're all robots anyways, bro.
Oh my god, dude. Westworld crossover.
Yeah.
What? Oh my god, I hope that happens. I hope that's real. What if that was a thing, a Game of Thrones Westworld crossover?
Where they were probably just like, don't give a fuck anymore.
That would explain why Jon Snow cannot die, because he's a real person.
It's true.
He's not a host.
Is there anything you wanted to plug? Twitter, band stuff?
Oh, God. You always have to pull it out of me because I always forget to plug my own shit or whatever. Yeah, you can follow me on fucking Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Tycho Magnetics. You can come and follow my band on the internet. The band, as you hear at the beginning of every episode with our song Lament off of our first album, Sorrows. We are Wovoka. We play heavy music. We just came out with a split with this other band, LLNN, from Copenhagen. That's awesome, and you can find that on the internet via Pelagic Records. You can come see us play live in September. We are going on a West Coast tour of the United States, so if you live on the West Coast or Vancouver, Canada, we'll be there. We'll be inside of you, Canada. I've never been to Vancouver, so it'll be a fun time for me, and I'll be excited to do that.
You can follow me on Twitter at CultureStash, and you can follow the website at CultureShocked. Please head on over to cultureshock.com where you can find out more about today's episode. You'll also find links to iTunes where you can rate and review the show, and to Patreon where you can kick a couple dollars our way so we can keep the lights on and keep kicking out good content for you guys. Donors get access to unreleased episodes, DVDs, and the chance to guest co-host a
What? You can co-host with us.
Yeah, right. Big thanks, as always, to Eric and Wovoka for that awesome intro song, and to my good friend Decipher for his outro song, Two Step.
Oh man, Two Step, posted with the crew. You know how we do, I'm just two step, drink in my right hand, phone in my other hand, getting to the money. Oh man, two step, posted with the crew. Yeah, you know how we do.
Hey, two step, you know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 1, 2. Benjamin, aka the Black T, you know what I'm saying? Catch me with my crew every day.